Hello, my friends. This is Lynda Lippin, and welcome to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Well, hello. Hello, my friends. It's Lynda Lippin, your host for the Pilates Goddess podcast. Welcome back one more time. As always, I am so grateful that you take your time to spend with me because our time is valuable. And that is a huge compliment. And I thank you for that. And I hope to give you tons of value in this short episode on this Memorial Day weekend regarding clarity in our Pilates cueing. I'm seeing online a lot of Pilates teachers, especially newer teachers, who either have been told and not always in nice ways, or feel like they did not learn anything about cueing in their Pilates training and are not effectively cueing now. So I thought I'd kind of break down some effective cueing, ideas, some effective cueing techniques. And when I say effective, all I mean is my clients understand them. Okay. Effective cueing is cueing that your clients understand so that they can actually do what you want them to do and they understand what it means. All right. That's all it is. A lot of Pilates teachers, number one, tend to cue muscle. And I'm letting you know right now that your clients have no idea where their muscles are really or what they do. You can ask your clients to show you where their hamstrings are, and half of them are going to be touching the inside of their leg or the front of their thigh. Seriously, most people have no idea. So cueing muscle is really nebulous for them. So if you're cueing muscles and your clients aren't doing what you're asking them to do, most of the time it's because they have no idea where those muscles are, what they do, or what you're asking. And that's not their fault. They are not the exercise professionals. Okay. So we have to figure out ways of cueing that the clients will understand and then be able to perform better and do better and move better in classes and then out in life. The second thing I see a lot of Pilates teachers do is finding a lot of flowery, awesome, interesting, expansive cues for exercises and movements for their clients. I'm letting you know that the flowery and expansive stuff doesn't always work for a lot of people. Once again, some folks will take to it. Some folks will have no idea what you're talking about. My goal in cueing and teaching is to meet all the people in the room. And so I go for as clear cueing as possible. And sometimes people will look at me and they'll say, "What do you mean?" And I'll say, "I mean exactly what I said." And then they'll do it. So how do I cue? Where do my cueing ideas come from? Okay, number one, my cueing ideas come from the body structure and the body skeleton. And I'll talk to you about how to effectively cue skeleton and things, body parts that people know so that they know what you want them to do. And the second thing is I tend to cue a little bit externally. So I'll get people to look at the apparatus, to look at the mat, to look at the room, to look around them, and then kind of figure out how they should be moving based on what they're reaching towards or reaching away from, or what's assisting and what's resisting. Okay, so first thing that I do is if I'm cueing the torso, which frankly is the first thing we're generally cueing in any kind of Pilates class, even if you're breaking it down into pre-Pilates, I assume you're doing some like pelvic tuck and arch, maybe some pelvic clock or circle work, maybe some hip hinges, we're doing some knee lifts, some knee folds, some arm circles, whatever it is. But we do need to talk to people about their spines and their pelvises. As you know, you can listen to The Myth of Neutral Spine. I hate the cue for neutral spine. I never use it. but I don't have my clients tucking all over the place either. So when I look at the torso, even if people are knees bent, feet on the mat, or on the reformer, wherever they are, I'm looking at heaviness across the torso. So I'm asking for heaviness at the sacrum, the big wide bone at the bottom of the pelvis. I'm asking for width out from the center of the sacrum to the hip bones and the outside of the sacroiliac joint. Then I am looking for width across the middle of the rib cage as much as possible, open collarbones and heavy armpits. Okay. And then the rest of the spine lays the way it lays. And then I ask my folks to take some deep breaths, breathing in and out, trying to move their rib cage, front, side, back, up, down, however, and really get as much air as possible, keeping the spine in that same position. And for the majority of people, 99%, that brings them into what you might call a neutral pelvis. It allows them to feel breath. It allows them to feel the heaviness of what's going on in the back of the body that we're looking for. Okay, does this make sense? Then I might cue them for a little pull your hip bones back and tuck your pubic bones up and then go forward and let your lower back arch. So then maybe they're going back and forth, through the two extremes. They come back to the center. Maybe they're doing some knee lifts or some knee folds, and I'm still asking them to keep that even side to side and the heaviness of their sacrum. So that they're not tucking their pelvises under just to move their legs or arching their backs just to move their legs. See where I'm going here? And I'm talking to my class about these things and why. So we're doing these knee lifts now because we want to be able to move our legs without moving our backs or our pelvises. Let's go. Then maybe we're doing some arm circles. We're looking at breathing. We're looking at letting the collarbones and shoulder blades move while we keep the rib cage a little bit stable. And again, it's stabilization of the spine while we move at a ball joint. Talk to your clients about what's moving and what's staying. They know where their ribs are. They can find their collarbones. They can feel where their sacrum is. That kind of all works for them. When I'm looking at a spine flexion exercise with folks, I'm talking to them about pulling their hip bones back, lengthening backward through their lumbar spine, pulling up and deepening under their rib cage, rounding through those ribs, rounding through the shoulder blades as they come apart, letting the head drop or go forward. See where I'm going? On the extension, the tail goes up, the lower back goes forward, the chest reaches forward, the collarbones open, the chest lifts. Maybe the lumbar spine keeps going down and forward a little bit more into a little bit of hyperextension. And then you come back through the center. You can do that on your back. You could do that standing. You could do that sitting. You can do that on all fours. And it works. Okay. When I'm doing rotation, typically I'm teaching rotation at the beginning, seated, head led, and I'm looking at planting down through the sits bones, lifting up through the spine, lifting up through the breastbone, and then leading from the eyes, turning the head, turning the ribs, keeping the pelvis where it is, and coming back, going the other way. Using breath to assist, right? Inhaling on the extension, exhaling for the return. So, so that your clients start to hear the same patter from you. They start to hear the same bony landmarks from you, and they are able to find those and feel where they should be, in their practice. Like, where's your back? Where's your spine? Is your spine still on the mat? Is your spine pulling forward with your legs? Is what is your body doing at any given time? Even teaser, I'm going to quickly take you through my cueing for teaser. Okay. So even in the beginning class, I might have people bring their knees into their chest, their arms lift up, right? They lift up their arms, they curl up their head, they round their ribs. They keep curling up towards their sacrum. Then they straighten those knees. Their heels are together. They lift up a little bit through their breastbones while keeping that roundness of the spine, keeping that pelvis tilted, not letting the legs pull the spine forward, maybe bringing the legs and the upper body a tiny bit closer together, and then starting to come back down, letting the legs move away from the body a little bit, dropping those hips back, allowing the knees to bend in, and then laying down the spine. See, I just did that from moving the skeleton. Okay. Now, you'll also heard me talk about cueing to the equipment. So say you've got folks, on a mat and you want to do swimming. So I will say to my clients, come onto your stomach. Reach your legs apart. Find the outside corners of the mat with your feet. Reach your arms apart. Find the outside corners of your mat with your hands. Now you're kind of like a wider X. Hold on to that wide X as you reach up opposite arm and leg. This gives your folks who might have cervical disc issues or neck issues a little more space at the upper body. And then for folks who still can't find that lift, who don't have that strength to lift their arm and use the back muscles and the shoulder muscles, bring their hands next to their rib cage, next to their hips, palms down to the mat, and let them do the opposite arm and leg from there, right? But again, I'm cueing people from the beginning to their mat, the shape of their mat, so that they can figure out where their parts want to be. I'm not going to talk about their arms being 4 inches away from their ears or whatever the hell it is. I'm just going to say move your hands to the corners of the mat, right? So if I've got people on their side doing side kicks, line your back up with the back of the mat, bring your feet forward toward the front of the mat. You're more stable as an angle than a straight line. And then you start your kicks. If you've got people on the reformer, if you're doing footwork, you can talk about that structure of opening the collarbone so there's not as much pressure of the shoulders and neck up into the shoulder blocks. You can talk about keeping the sacrum heavy so that the weight of the body isn't shifting back towards the neck and shoulders, making that worse. You can talk about looking at the bar for a second, making sure that the feet are centered in the middle of the bar. Okay. You can then, say you're doing leg circles, right? And so you have people bring their feet into the straps. People don't always know where their bodies are here. You remind them to open their collarbones, get their sacrums heavy like they did in the footwork and everything you gave them on the mat, if you did mat with them. And then you're looking at keeping all of that alignment, keeping that spine and that sacrum on the mat as you move the legs. You talk to them about where they're getting assistance in the hamstring stretch of the legs pulling back. So they have to be mindful of keeping that sacrum heavy so that they don't just tuck under, opening the legs and then pushing forward. Again, if you want to talk about size, you can start out with a client who's not very stable, going just width of the machine. And then you maybe talk to them about going a little bit wider, but based on whether they can keep their pelvis steady and their bones in the right place on that mat. As they push the legs forward, the abs pull in so that again, the pelvis doesn't move, right? The chest stays open, the sacrum stays heavy, the abs pull in as they need to against the resistance for stability. I talk to my clients a lot about when they're on the apparatus, about places where the apparatus assists them versus resists them. And I'm letting you know that next week, on Monday, on Memorial Day here in the US, I'm going to be launching my private podcast where I will be breaking down all of the Pilates exercises on all of the apparatus, starting with the reformer for you Pilates teachers who would like an in-depth look at what those exercises are and where you can find those exercises in other places in the Pilates studio, so that you get a sense of how the method and the system work together with the mat and with all of the apparatus. Okay. It's important to keep your clients engaged and doing more things. But if they're doing more things without a sense of what they've done correctly before or what didn't quite work well before, then they're not really learning anything, and they're just kind of pushing forward without any really good background or basis. I teach new clients in Tower and Reformer almost every week, and mat. Not so much mat, because my mat class is an intermediate mat class with instructor approval required. But I teach one Tower class and one Reformer class a week at Bombshell that are just open to new clients and new clients on ClassPass. So I often have classes with a mixed level, and I often have folks who are coming in who have never done a classical reformer before. They've only been in contemporary group classes or megaformer classes. So they will often say things to me like, wow, your cueing was so clear. I did not feel nervous. I did not feel like I was going to fall at any point. I felt like I knew where my spine was. I knew what my body was doing in relationship to the equipment. By the end of the class, I was really comfortable with how the springs felt, the difference between 1, 2, 3, 4 springs. And again, what my spine and torso and body positioning should be. And this is information that then those clients can go use in other classes, right? Because in most of those other classes, they're not getting cued correctly. I'm hearing, from people who are going into a class, they're getting cued to do double leg lower lift, and they're simply told, lie down, bring your hands under your lower back, and lower your legs all the way down and all the way back up 20 times, right? They're not told that their back shouldn't be lifting, what they should be doing, why their hands are under their backs, like what's going on with the point of the exercises, what to do if their back starts hurting, none of this. And frankly, you know what the cue is for that exercise? You don't have to put your hands under your back. You're going to bring your legs up to the ceiling. Okay? You're going to pull your abs in. You're going to feel where your spine is. You're going to squeeze your heels to your seat. You're going to start to lower the legs away from the body, keeping your sacrum, your lower back, and your upper back on the mat in the same relationship. And then you're going to bring those legs up. If you lower your legs to a point where you feel your lower back pulling forward with your legs, you have gone way too far. You're going to back up a little, and you're going to find the place where you can go with your back still on the mat. That place, as you're moving, might get further away. Or if you're tired, it might get closer. But respect your spine in this. Okay, very simple, very easy. Everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing. Now, does this necessarily mean that your clients are going to do everything you tell them perfectly once your cueing is clearer? Of course not. People may just come in and flail all around on their own regardless. But at least you will know that you have cued them in the most clear way possible. So guys, I don't know if you know this, but I am teaching my first live workshop in like several years, like since COVID. And I'm teaching this workshop over 2 Saturdays, and it's just going to be 3 hours on 2 Saturday afternoons, the 8th and the 15th of June. So they are coming up. All right. And in these in this workshop called Back to Basics, I am going to be teaching you or reviewing the beginning and intermediate classical mat and reformer. Now, why am I feeling the need to do this? Number one, because there's a lot of you guys who are going through teacher training and aren't actually learning this. And if you're having issues with your cueing, with your class programming, with what the bodies are doing in these different exercises, again, just beginner and basic intermediate, like nothing crazy. But these are the safest exercises for your clients, the safest exercises for group class programming. They are the base core exercises, really, of the Pilates method itself. And if you have never necessarily done these exercises, if you haven't reviewed beginning and intermediate mat and reformer in a while, if you're having issues with your cueing, with programming classes, with what to do with mixed level, anything like this, I really encourage you to come to this workshop. It will be held both live and live stream, and I will put a link in the show notes so that you can find out some more information about this. But I would really, really love to see you there. Now, if you have any questions, as always, about anything I've said in this podcast, you're going to reach out to me. You can reach out to me on the Spotify app. You can reach out to me at my website, Lynda@lyndalippin.com. You can also reach out directly to me from the Pilates Goddess podcast page. And I hope that you have a great weekend, and I will talk to you next week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Pilates Goddess podcast. Music brought to you by Nerd Salad. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, especially if you liked it. And please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks.